Welcome to A Photographer's Life, the channel that takes you behind the curtain into the world of professional architectural photography. Join us now for a special episode with some of America's premier architectural photographers. Today's broadcast is part 2 of a 3-part question and answer meeting. This meeting was held by the Association of Independent Architectural Photographers, and the discussion is led by AIAP Director Alan Blakely. We hope you enjoy the show. If you do, please let us know by liking this episode and subscribing to this channel. Now, on with the show.
Well, Alan, like I said, is there a format? Because I had a couple of questions for the group.
Sure.
But I don't know if we're done with Instagram and all that. Or
Yeah, let's move on.
So my question
Let's
is,
talk about Pinterest.
I don't know if you guys are involved about Wonderful Machine. They're a marketing firm, and I'm a member at Wonderful Machine. They just have these hypothetical, well, it's not hypothetical, it's a actual estimate for a photo shoot. They mark out the client's name and the photographer's name.
Yeah.
But it came up the other day where they have a line in there for equipment rental.
Oh
And
yeah.
I know in advertising shooters can get up to average maybe $1,000 a day, putting their equipment on a line item to rent that day for the shoot. And I've talked to other studios in Portland here, and they said, no, you can't get that in Portland. Maybe it's just an LA thing. But have you guys ever, besides the equipment, they have to go more equipment, but you're like your average camera and basic setup. Do you guys ever put that on your line as a line item on the invoice?
I
Usually,
never have. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was
Sorry.
going to say the only time I've done it was I had a 39-day time lapse where I thought it was originally all going to last 2 days. And I ended up having to bring in extra equipment because my main camera and everything was on the site. And I charged them for that. And I put it on the invoice and I sent them receipts and said, hey, look, this went long. But normally, typically, I don't. I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you. We started talking at the same time.
That's okay. But most of these guys, like Norman, you've seen it probably in ad shoots, people charging for renting their equipment out.
Yeah, my problem is I have so much equipment. I even have photographers that borrow my equipment. I've got so much stuff. So I haven't had to rent anything in forever. But I don't see, if I do a lot of like if I'm out of state, and sometimes I'll be in Florida. I'm in Chicago, so if I'm in California or Texas or Florida, I usually ship my gear to my location. If I'm going to be there for a week or so, I'll send it ahead of time, so it's there. And I mean, I don't take it on the plane or anything with me, and so I don't have that problem of rental. But if I did actually have to rent something, then I wouldn't have any objection at all to putting it on a line item, and I would think it would have to be.
Yeah, it's the rental if you're going to get something that you don't already have. But these guys are renting out their equipment that they already own. That's my point.
Well, I think at the Wonderful Machine, and I'm a member of Wonderful Machine, but also I know Bill Kramer and stuff. Sometimes that line item is a combination of actual rental equipment and their own equipment that they want to get paid to use. And so, for advertising, it's not such a big deal. For editorial, it's not unusual either, because editorial assignments might be, well, they don't pay that well. And so if they're asking you to do something other than just show up with a camera around your neck, it's not unreasonable to at least ask for it. I mean, you're never going to get the same rates anyway that you would get from advertising. So no, I think it's, it's like asking for per diem if you're on the road, or, I'm going to get $100, but I'm going to bring a sandwich. So I get paid that $100, even though I've made a sandwich at home.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Anyway, I'll work on my analogy, but you get the idea.
Yeah, that works.
I love those contracts, by the way. And I force them down the throat of my students. Well, you can't force anything down the throat of anybody, particularly students, but I really encourage them because there's such a great range of different kinds of projects. And for people
Wonderful Machine.
Wonderful Machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of these, for those of you that don't know, on the blog or newsletter, a photo editor, which is one of my favorites, On the right-hand side, he's got a categories. And if you go down to the categories, you put in pricing and negotiating. There's now 120 of these posts. And what they are is a description of what the pitch, the job is.
Mhm.
Then there's a description of the negotiating that went on. And then there's at least one copy of an invoice or an estimate. Sometimes there's 2 or 3, and talk about how it changed and so forth. So I've used that to just get a sense of just to get started on the kinds of, if it's a project I'm not familiar with how to do it. So it's just gold,
Yeah.
and their terms and conditions are really easy to read. And I changed the formatting of my terms and conditions and some of the words to put it in there because, so for instance, they've got a whole paragraph that just says definitions. And I can't tell you how I no longer get questions about what does this mean? It's just written in ordinary language. So there's problems I think some people have with these contracts and pricing and so forth, but I find them to be pretty solid, particularly for just ordinary photographers, big time photographers that are shooting a $500,000 campaign. They're not Wonderful Machine. And those contracts aren't going to do that. But most of us are not shooting $500,000 campaigns. So
It just comes down to that we're not, well, for me recently, economically, we're not able to raise our rates that much. Our rates can kind of vary based on what we're shooting. So when you can add a few things into your fees, it's like some people put insurance on there, which I understand, but if there's too many line items on the client will probably start wondering, why do we have so many on there?
yeah.
But it's great that we're all here this morning, or maybe afternoon some places, just to kind of share ideas. And we can't do pricing and tell everybody what we're all charging, because that's considered price fixing. I don't know if that's the case, but it's good that we have dialogue and see what people are adding to their invoicing and make it what we can.
Well, I could speak to the price fixing thing a little bit. And Alan, you're kind of in a middle territory here, but
Mhm.
the price fixing was addressed towards trade associations, and
Right.
ASMP got in trouble
Yeah.
because they were actually saying this is what you should charge, and the SEC sued ASMP and said no, you can't. It costs them money and lawyer fees to get that taken care of. But what became clear is that you can say as much as you want about what you charged in the
Right.
past for that. So you can give a tremendous amount of advice without saying you should charge this, by just saying I charge this for that, and then you're okay. But I don't know if this directory or what the legal status of AIAP is in regards to being a trade association.
Well, Federal Trade Commission doesn't consider us a trade organization necessarily.
Yeah,
We're considered
think
an
so.
online community.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Ellen, I sent you the email 3 times, twice through my .com email, and you rejected me with spam. So I sent it through my .net, and I think you got it this time. So yeah, don't. So fix it so I'm not spam for you. But anyway,
okay, thanks.
Sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay. My feelings are hurt. How many here, we don't have to say what you're charging, I guess, but how many have raised their rates this year because of the inflation? Everything has gone up. So I mean,
Yeah.
I just sort of.
Nominal inflation is over 4%. Just this year, inflation in this quarter has been 8.5%. We've raised our rates accordingly because it's impacted our bottom line. So
I'm on a Facebook. There's a great Facebook group, SF Image Makers. Well, it's great. As an educator, it's great because you get to see all this crazy shit that happens out there. But one of the things that happened was that somebody said, I'm thinking of raising my rates, and all these photographers popped up and said, I'm not only busier than I've been in 3 or 4 years, I've raised my rates.
Mhm.
So it's had no effect on their ability to be busy. So I think that is a thing. I think that's a reasonable expectation these days, to raise your rates.
Yeah, I've raised my rates 25% as of the first of the year.
Yeah.
And I've had
Across the
no
board,
push-
everything's 25%, or just your photo fee?
Everything, and I've had
Everything.
no pushback. In fact, I'm busier than I was last year, so,
Mhm.
Wow, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
which
I
is a
think-
little bit of a surprise because I was willing to adjust if I needed to.
Yeah. Yeah,
But Alan, that's not advertised rates. It's not like a rack brochure rate. It's just what you charge and when you put your estimate together. It's
Right,
not like,
yeah,
say, you send out this announcement that all my rates are 25% more.
no,
It's just
and
built
I
into
don't
the
think,
estimate.
yeah, I don't think people have really seen it that way necessarily. And I
Right.
only charge, I charge on a creative fee basis. I don't do a line item quotation. And so they're kind of comparing apples to oranges all the time, and it just isn't an issue for me.
Yeah.
I will say I also charge a 15% aggravation fee.
yeah, exactly.
Right?
I've
A
got
nuisance fee.
if I've got a troublesome client, they get charged more. So
I
I've
call
done
I
that.
call that a PITA fee,
I
but I don't put it as a line item.
I have a pain and suffering clause in my contract.
Yeah.
I think that's fair, you know.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what reason that I do it too is my experience. When I was a contractor, you know, there's the standard, at least in California, is you withhold the clients and everybody withholds the last 10%. Contractors do it for the subcontractors. It's pretty standard. So there's always punch list items and stuff that takes forever. And that last 10% is not supposed to hurt very much. Although of course it always hurts.
Mm.
So that's what I would do. I would put in an extra 10% because sometimes I wouldn't ever get that 10%.
Yeah.
So I would make sure I got my 10% no matter what happens.
I do things completely different. I get my fee up front.
The whole fee.
I get
Oh,
my
wow.
The whole
I-
fee?
we keep our client, all of our clients, you know, I tell them we're green here, we're paperless. So we have all of our clients have a card on file and they have an account with us. So when they book something, if they're going to say, oh yeah, I'm going to need 10 images from this, they get billed for 10 images. If they're going to do, I'm looking to do this shoot and I want 15 images and then I want a video or whatever, the video it will quote on the side, but we get the fee up front. And my reasoning for doing that is because the work that I do for them it's valueless to anybody else. It's not like where you have a product that if someone orders it and they don't want it, you can sell it to somebody else. You know, photography is very personal. It's very specific to the particular client. So, you know, it's, you know, we get that fee up front.
Not even a deposit. The full.
Some clients I have where we'll get a deposit,
Mm.
and then after we shoot it, we'll build a card for the rest of it. Like if I'll get a deposit, we'll go to the shoot. They're talking about doing 10 images. They end up doing 20 at the end of the day there. Then we'll build a card for that. So we still have the guarantee of getting our fee. But for most clients, the fee is up front.
Wow. Because I do 50%. And then pretty typically, even though I've said, you know, you get 10 pictures and they say, well, we want 12, then I bill more. So the next 50% is like 70% or something like that in the end. So
yeah, and I really like having the client card on file instead of sending an invoice and waiting for a check.
Yeah.
I don't know the last time we received a check from anybody. It's, you know,
Yeah.
it works out nice. And you know, you have a bank fee you have to kind of build in to take care of with your merchant account, but it's worked out really good for us.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, so yeah, I was going to ask you about that. These fees that are associated with it. Now, some banks, there's not a fee, or if you take it through, well, even Venmo or that Zelle through Wells Fargo, there's no fees involved in that. So it's interesting. You don't do checks at all anymore. Yeah.
No, credit card, yeah. And clients are good with that because when we think about our lifestyle, it's changed so much and evolved. I mean, I have cards on file for all kinds of things, you know,
I do too. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so that it's not like it's not a normal business practice. It is.
Right.
And they get points.
And they get
know?
points. Yeah, that's a sale. That's a sale.
I mean, honestly,
They get
you know,
but it's so easy because, you know, we send them their you know, a PDF of their invoice, a PDF of their license, you know, it's just so easy. And it takes it out of the, like you said, Barry, about someone holding something back from you. I don't think I'd ever go for that. 10%, 1%, I want to get paid. And so that's, if you have a good relationship with your client and you do good work, there shouldn't be any objection to setting up an account with them and putting their card on file. That's the first thing we do with somebody. When they say, yeah, I want to work with you, they say, okay, let's get this paperwork out of the way so we can move forward. And, it works. We have, all of our clients have cards on file. So
God, it's almost like you think of yourself as a business or something.
yeah,
And not a bank.
and not a bank. Yeah, we don't finance anything here.
Oh,
I take that back. I have had a client where they've done a lot of work and we have taken a couple of payments on something.
Mhm.
But those are really rare and few and far between, and they're really established clients with us. So
yeah.
That's excellent. What next? What's on your mind? Anybody?
I'd like to know, just as a group, how many of you guys use assistants on your shoots? Not all the time, but say at least 75% of the time. How often do you guys use assistants, photo assistants?
When there's enough money, I do.
yeah, I have a business partner, Mary Beth, and we've been working together this is our 30th year actually.
Wow.
And she's the graphic artist in our graphic artist side of the business, but she's also a shooter. And if I'm doing a big project, she'll go with me. And she's I think Alan uses an assistant, for staging or
Yeah.
Mary Beth, she's so detail oriented that she'll be ahead of me with the places I'm going to shoot and make sure they're all perfect. And
Yeah.
and then sometimes we'll be setting up multiple cameras and she'll be running one of them. So I do that probably 75% of the time. The other 25% I'm shooting by myself. And when I'm doing video, I always have a team of 3 to 4.
You have a steady group of people that you work with to do video, or do you just sort of?
I have 2 people that I use for camera, and then I have the rest of the team they work here. So, but I consider them staff. We do enough video that they're here quite often. So,
And you're doing your own post as well in-house?
we do our own post, yeah, and editing, yeah. Yeah. But I do have a guy that does amazing editing. I mean, if anybody's doing video and they need some editing work done, Patrick's amazing. So.
And is he a colorist also?
That
Or is
I
that
don't
just
know.
part of?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the thing about video is, because I don't do video, but I want to do video. I practice a lot on my iPhone, which is not quite the same thing, but just trying to get a feel for how to do it. Is the shooting architecture, you can't light, so you've got multiple weird lighting to deal with. And also, if you're picking up the camera and going from room to room, you could have some big changes, and good colorists can manage all that, and it's not as critical as it is for a still photo anyway. They're very powerful tools out there, DaVinci Resolve and all that, which I've fooled with.
Yeah, for when we do video for architectural clients, if we're doing an interview, for instance, we will intersperse in the video our actual architectural shots. And then, of course, with the software, you can have movement within the photo to pan the image. That always looks better than shooting it with a gimbal in a camera, because you have to shoot shutter priority to manage the different light flows.
Right.
So it's, but having, as far as yourself getting into video, we started where we were going to be shooting, running the camera, and it's much easier to have a camera guy and then use your eye for directing.
Right.
The client likes that better as well, and the results are fantastic. Yeah.
Well, that's how it's. I mean, all the people that started doing advertising and editorial that move into doing commercials turn into directors.
Yeah.
For just that reason.
Yeah.
It's too complicated, and you got to have good sound if there's going to be.
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
Without audio, you got nothing.
Yeah. That's true. You got to have.
I'm curious, Norman. Do you market that as part of your package? I mean, how does that fit into your, like when you gain a new client or an existing client?
It isn't on our website. Mary Beth is building a new website for us. We're getting away from whoever it is we use now, but so it's going to be. But I do when I meet with an architectural client, like I just shot an architectural job in Michigan, and the client, and I don't recommend it to everybody, but this client was so well poised, and they talked about their project with enthusiasm, and I could just see them knocking a video out of the park. And I reckon, I said, I might want to think of doing a video. You and your husband, it was a wife-husband team, are these high-end builders. But they thought the way they talk about their, that's probably the way we are when we talk about photography. The way they talked about their project, it was just, very convincing, very authoritative. And so we're going to go back Monday and shoot video for them. We're going to do that. So that's the way I market it. If I think that it would lend to the client's portfolio and be beneficial to the client, then I'll mention that we do video, and I call it high-end video because it is. I've seen some pretty ratty videos, and our stuff is really polished and nice. And it helps because we have the architectural side of it, because when we're talking about a client talking about a specific project or something they had to overcome, or we can intersperse the photography as a voiceover with the voiceover, and it just looks really good. I mean, the clients are really happy with that, and it's a nice business. It's a nice additive to our business because they're using us for all of their marketing then when it comes to visual media.
I can recommend, at least as an example of something I stumbled into, which is out of Australia. It's called The Local Project, and it's thelocalproject.com.au. And it's some kind of high-end magazine-y thing or something. And they do these little 5-minute pieces on always contemporary architecture. They always have an interview and a voiceover, and it's all done. It's all video. I don't think there's any stills in it. It's done with a gimbal, very short moves, in and out, a short pan, just a few seconds, all sort of put together. The quality of the color is not always great, but I think this is a lot about style. But they're nicely done, and the interviews are like you were talking about. They interview people who can talk.
Yeah,
Typically, you could really tell the difference when they can't.
It's the editing time, I tell you that.
Yeah, boy, you just this is where you can make people really look good. So, but that's I've been intrigued by this. I don't know where the money is or how this works or any of that, but they're nicely done, most of them. And there's a real formula. After you've watched about 3 or 4, you just see, oh, well, this is what they do. It's always the same. And even if it's a different company that's doing it, I think they have one main company that is the production company. But the style is, yeah.
I had some early video experience with a company, Chicago-based, called Film Montage. Vladimir Manvul. He's fantastic. He's an amazing camera guy, and his stuff is so well polished. So it's it's a nice when you think about like Vlad, when he does editing, I think he's $2,000 a day for just his editing fee. We're nowhere near that type of cost, but he does something that's 20th Century Fox level though.
Yeah.
For what we're doing for clients, like 1.5 to 3 or 4 or 5 minute videos, I think the largest one we've done production wise is 33 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a client's resume, and it beautifully done. But it's really nice. I get excited doing it because, especially with an architectural client, because it just makes a nice package for them. And as far as like a cost, you're looking at $1,500 to $2,000 a minute when you're doing something like that, and that's not something that's out of the realm of someone's budget. And it's a nice additive to your package that you're selling when you're doing photography.
Is that something that then they're going to use as website content primarily?
Primarily, yeah. And the nice thing about that too, also, Alan, is we'll do like a 3 or 5 minute video with somebody, and then we'll structure it so that it can be edited down if they wanted to put it on Instagram, or if they want to put it
Okay.
on Facebook. We can do like a 15 or 20-second segment of that. I had one client that answered questions that designers, avoid. And there were like 8 questions. So we would send a question to Instagram every week. And then after it was all done, we put the whole thing together and it ended up on our website as a video. So the client gets a lot of mileage out of that. And video content on websites now for interior designers and builders and architects is becoming more and more prevalent. So if they're not going to buy it from you, they're going to buy it from somebody else. And I don't like the idea of them saying, well, because I've seen this happen, they'll have a third party do video. And then that videographer says, well, I can give you stills from this for your architectural. The stills will never look like a processed architectural shot. So I like handling the whole thing.
Well, the other part of this, which is the smarter architects know, and is that Google loves video, because Google is all about the length of time that eyeballs are on a page. And so there's just nothing better than video to make sure you have to watch the video. Your eyes are staying on that page. So, I mean, this is why Instagram has videos and
Reels.
all that. Yeah. So it's an SEO thing, which is, big architectural companies are not as concerned about that SEO, but everybody has to think about SEO a little bit. We certainly, right, we do.
Yeah.
And so having a video or even a GIF on your site can keep people on it. And by the way, just as an aside here, for those that may not have followed the news obsessively, the guy that invented the GIF just died. And one of the, he invented it a long time ago, and it is pronounced GIF. He said, it's not GIF, it's GIF. I invented it, just say it. So if you run into that question now, you have an authoritative opinion.
That's right.
It's not even an opinion, it's a fact, it's a true fact.
I've got kind of an aside for this. I've got a lot of clients who are doing their own video for Instagram and TikTok, and they're architectural, construction, design clients, and they're doing their own, and it's really terrible. And I've honestly never thought about offering that as a service, because it would not be a big deal to do what Norman's doing necessarily, and just have somebody come in and have that integrated with the photography so that it looks like the brand instead of just the 23-year-old marketing director that's got an iPhone.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's why they're so terrible, right?
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised when the client sees the level of quality that we could give them, and I mean, I'm talking about everybody on this page here. The level of quality you can give them as a video, they'll never be shooting their own anymore, because it's that much, and it's that good. It's that much better. And so, yeah, I think that I don't see why everybody doesn't do it. We were asked to do it, and that's, I fell into it. We were asked to do it. And my nephew, he's also a photographer. He does video. And he introduced me to a camera guy. He said, Uncle, if you need a good camera guy, this guy's fantastic. And we linked up with him. We've been doing this now this is our 3rd year. And
Wow.
it's been, it's probably 30% of our business. So
Wow.
Do any of you use video on your own websites? Is that an element of your own
coming
website?
soon?
Okay, yeah. I'm just wondering about that.
Yeah, to be honest, I've shot 2 houses that I did on my own, and I shot the shit out of it because I knew that only a percentage would be worth anything, and I've never done anything with it. I sort of got busy and then sort of put it aside, but I still have the footage, and I think, why don't I just learn DaVinci Resolve or pay somebody to string this thing together and get some.
Yeah, Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere are what we use. And you can pretty much accomplish anything with those two.
Oh yeah, it's quite amazing. And there's also even just like there is for photography, if there's there's software that can fix problems, noise reduction,
Yeah.
sharpening, all kinds of things. The AI Topaz,
Yeah.
which is, I don't know if any of you use it. It's
Oh, yeah.
unbelievable. It's unbelievably good. And for noise reduction, it's gigapixel or whatever they call it. Anyway, make things bigger, get rid of noise, do sharpening, and they also now have a video version of it as well.
Yeah.
So you can shoot in low light if whatever. Anyhow,
We don't have a big noise problem or a quality problem because we shoot everything in 4K. So
yeah. What kind of cameras is he using? Is he using straight video cameras
for the video, we use a Canon 1DX.
Yeah.
DX1, yeah, and then we
Wow.
also use a Sony 7, whatever the latest 60 megapixel monster is.
Yeah.
And Zeiss lenses on the Sony and Canon lenses on the Canon.
Yeah.
For the architectural, for the photos themselves, we shoot Sony 850s and 900s.
Oh, wow. And are you, maybe we shouldn't get too deep in the weeds, but are you shooting RAWs or HLG for the video, or
We shoot RAW.
you shoot RAW? Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are big fat files.
Oh yeah, no, it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. But boy, you get all the benefit, right?
No, it is. And like you said, after you've got the footage, there's so many things you can do with it. But it's best to really have a good camera guy. I mean, somebody that knows how to run the camera, and it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I highly recommend that. I found out really early on that I was not a video shooter. So
No, yeah, and I'm not either. I can do
different
it.
skill set.
I'm not either. What I found, Alan, is that, and I think all of us have this same problem. We're so fussy because we're architectural photographers. So it's got to be perfect. It's hard to, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. You get worried about the audio, the video, the lighting, I don't want to think about any of that. I want to think about making sure that the framing is right, that the composition is right, and I want to direct the shoot. I want to make sure that that whoever's on camera is going to look poised and professional. So I can do one or the other, and I want to direct because I got my name on it. So
You never shoot video architecture. You're only doing pan and scan.
I do. I'll do a walk. I'm gonna have a client walk through a project, and we'll have that walkthrough footage. But when it comes to them talking about the actual room or building or whatever it is, we'll use the architectural shot. We'll blend that in at that time.
Wow. Well, that solves a lot of problems right there.
It solves all of the problems. Yeah. It does. It solves all of them. And then
genius.
and then you don't have to worry about some competition trying to emulate your type of skill level, because they're not architectural photographers. Their videos will never look as good as yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the client, they get, like I said, they get a lot of mileage out of it. Yeah, it does absolutely solves all of the problems.
Wow.
Norman, did you say that you have the camera operator on staff, or do you subcontract?
Yeah, no, we do enough now that I have two video guys that we use for camera, and I'm going to call them part-time. They're not here full-time. I'm going to call them part-time because that's about a third of our business. So we see them and they work here quite regularly.
And do they do their own post? Do they do the post for you, or?
We handle the post and the editing.
Yeah.
But I have one gentleman that I work with where he is capable of doing the post, and he's fantastic. In fact, I've sent his name to a couple of AIAP members who were doing video, and they're looking for someone to do post.
Yeah.
Because
I think it's become easier for them. Camera people were just camera people, but now for the same reasons that we can do our own post, they can do their own post to some.
The editing is, that's the key to making a good video. Editing.
It's the whole thing. Yeah.
This has been another episode of A Photographer's Life. If you've enjoyed this program, please let us know by liking this episode and subscribing to this channel. A Photographer's Life is brought to you by the Association of Independent Architectural Photographers. This episode is copyrighted and may not be used in full or in part without the written permission of the AIAP. Please join us again soon for another inside look at the world of professional architectural photography.